started. We like to start on time. We value your time, and we always have a whole lot of stuff to talk about, and it feels like time just flies by. It flies when you're having fun. So one thing I want to make sure we mention, I gave you all an assignment to do, and I said, I'm going to write it down so I can remember. Does anybody remember what the assignment was? Okay, complete page 9 and 10. Mr. Randall? The house video, exactly. I seen some. I didn't do that. Please write it down. Please write it down. That's so important. Somebody told me, one of the students said, Candace, we did the video of the house, but we're going to do it again because the house was dirty. I said, oh, my God. It was so funny. If they're watching online, they know who I'm talking about, right? So what I'll say is that it doesn't matter that the house is dirty. You could redo it, but at least have it done. Don't delay. All right? Anybody don't know what I'm talking about? Okay, don't know what I'm talking about. That's all right. Okay, yeah, sure. Nah, you don't have to do that. She said, do I have to pull open drawers? So the assignment was to do a video of your home, right? So that if, God forbid, your house catches on fire, you could actually have proof of what's in your home. Okay, when you do that video, if you have drawers, she said, do I need to go in my drawers? If you have valuables in your drawers, yes, sure. But if just your clothes and stuff like that, you don't have to do that, right? Right, so that's a good one. One of the things I will tell you, though, is when you're videoing, make sure you video and you can see the TVs and stuff. But it's okay to get the serial numbers on your TVs if you got a real expensive TV, right? Make sure you get that because you want to make sure to account for those things. So if you have not done it, who's done it? Okay, 3, 4, okay. When you do it, put it in your email so you always have it, right? Not just on your phone. Send it to your email. And I need everybody to get that video done for me. That's your assignment again, okay? Last week, there was a conversation. Somebody said, well, it's smart to pay off your highest interest rate versus the lowest payment that's on your snowball, okay? It was a mistake. I just want to make sure we come back. Let's come back. How should you pay your debt off? Lowest to highest. So the lowest amount or lowest limit, then go up to the highest. Okay? So let's do an example. Let's say Miss Lisa has a payment. It's 2 Lisas right here together. That's funny. Miss Lisa has a credit card. She owes $1,000. She has another credit card. One was with Visa, the MasterCard. She owes $3,000. Which card does she pay first? The Visa for $1,000, Vanna. Absolutely. We got it. She would pay that one off until it's paid in full, and then she moves to the next one. Does she continue to make her payments, the minimum payments? Yes, 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 yes. Remember, you don't want to not pay those payments. You want to pay the minimums on all the other stuff and only attack the one that you're focused on. Okay, we got it? All right, it's a recap one. Make sure you got it. All right, I'm done. Let me tell you what's going to happen next. Y'all ready? Say ready. How's the family? Oh, that ain't what we said. I'll do it again. Let's ready. I'm going to give you a test. I'm going to say, how's the family? Y'all gonna say, the family's good. Okay. Y'all ready? How's the family? Oh, yeah, it's real good. I like it. So what I want to do, because this next conversation is always, why we got to talk about dying, right? It's always a thing. Everybody kind of feels that way. But guess what? This gentleman talks about the process of leaving a legacy for your family. We don't want to say it's about dying. It's about leaving a legacy. It's about family planning, estate planning. He is with the absolute largest law firm in Arkansas, and he's a partner of that firm, which is amazing within itself. The company name is Wright Lindsay Jennings, because I think I mess it up every time. But I know this gentleman who is an amazing father, husband, and a great lawyer, and he's going to talk to us tonight about estate planning. Please welcome Mr. David Jones.
Okay, let's see. Can you guys hear me? Yes. Well, I we're here at the church, so I don't want to lie here in the church, so I'm going to correct one thing. Candace gave me a very generous welcome, very generous introduction. We are the second largest law firm in the state of Arkansas, so I don't want anybody to leave here and say I lied about the size of our firm. It's the second largest firm in the state of Arkansas. I am going to say thank you guys for being here. Thank you for welcoming me in to be here with you in person. I've been online on the night that I'm not here in person. I want to welcome all the folks who are on YouTube in with us. I noticed that the folks in the room on the nights when I wasn't here, you guys are high energy. You're asking questions. You're engaging. And I'm going to say something that somebody said to me. It sounded negative when they said it to me, but I'm going to say it to you in the most positive way I can. Keep that same energy. So I want you guys to, as we go through this, if you have questions, let me know what your questions are. We can engage. We can have some back and forth. Now, this is an overview. If we were going to talk about down into very minute details of estate planning, we could be here all night. We could be here for a week talking about estate planning and all the different things that you can do with your estate planning. We're trying to give you an overview. We're trying to expose you to something that maybe you haven't been exposed to before. Some of you have, some of you have not. But we're trying to get you exposed, and we're trying to get you the accurate information about what's out there, what your options are. You've talked a lot as you've gone through these sessions about how do I accumulate assets? I want to accumulate something. I want to build something. And now that you know how to build it, and now that you started the process of building it, what happens if, God forbid, something happens to you? How do you preserve and how do you have your intentions for those assets honored? So that's what we're going to be talking about. Looking forward to having this conversation, and let's just get into it. So we've talked about the purpose, broad overview. There are going to be some questions that this class is going to raise for you, and it may be very specific to you, and it may be very personal to you. And my invitation to you is feel free to come to me afterwards. We can have a conversation, or if you need to connect with me outside of the class, feel free to do that. But I'm not here to sell you anything. I'm here to provide the information, and then hopefully you act on the information. And I'm not saying with me, I'm saying find a way, find a professional to act on this information with. Okay, so we make some assumptions. At some point, everyone is going to face mortality. So that's the big secret about this. At some point, everybody's going to face mortality. There's a time to live, there's a time to die, there's a time and place for everything. You can't take it with you. So I have a friend who says this, and I think Deacon Thomas also has started to say this too, which is I've never seen a hearse with a luggage rack. You know, you don't have a U-Haul hooked up behind the hearse dragging all your belongings to take with you. I mean, there are folks who will put things in their coffin. There are folks who will, even if you think back to the beginning of time, there are folks who you'll find sarcophagus and things like that where there are physical belongings, but you know what? Anybody can walk in and take it at any time, and that happens. So you can try to take it with you, but it's not effective. Okay, so we're going to be doing some surveys throughout the time that I'm talking to you. And if you want to participate in those surveys, that is the link to be able to participate. So if you want to plug that in on your cell phone, iPad, or or whatever you have here with you, or if you're online, if you want to utilize that, we're going to be doing some surveys, some interactive pieces to this that I'd love to have you participate in. Now, for the folks here in the room, how many of you have talked to somebody about estate planning? Okay. And if you're online, feel free to engage in the chat. How many of you in the room have done something with your estate planning, or you have an estate plan in place? Okay. Good. All right, so we're going to move on to, okay. I'm going to switch it back, but you know what? I didn't. That would be the reason why. And that's why we have folks who know what they're talking about in different aspects of this. We're not trying to be a jack of all trades, and that's why I need the tech support.
Let me check and see if I can help you.
Here, I got it. Yeah, I got it here. It's on.
The little web at the bottom. That one.
Well, this is typically how I would, yeah. So there. The public Wi-Fi. Okay. Okay. So we now should be up and running. And you know what? You always need somebody to blame this stuff on. I'm going to blame it on Candace. Because of all the stuff that I was reminded of, it wasn't make sure you connect to the internet. So, and that's an important piece of what we're doing. Okay. It's still saying it's lost here. Oh. Okay. All right. So this is one that I've already posed this question to you, so you should be ahead of the game. Do you already have a will, a trust, or another estate planning document? And we'll see how close this comes to what we typically see in these sessions. Okay, everybody had a chance to participate? So around 60% typically is what we would see for folks who don't have any type of estate planning document, have not sat down with someone, prepared a will, a basic will, a trust, or any other type of estate planning document. Okay, let's talk about what is an estate plan. So an estate plan is real simple. It's your instructions for how you want your property distributed among your heirs at your death. And who are your heirs? Your heirs are simply the people who could potentially take assets from you or receive assets from you at your death. So, estate plan, it's simply a document or documents that are designed to distribute to your heirs at your death. Any questions? Okay, typical estate plan could include a will, could include setting up a trust or trusts. It could include gifting property in some other manner, and they're all designed to work together to efficiently execute what your intentions are for your property and your assets. Okay. For those of you who said, I don't have an estate plan, have you ever had someone discuss estate planning with you? outside of this class, anywhere, have you ever at any point had anyone discuss estate planning with you? Okay. So, and interestingly enough, that tracks almost exactly with the folks who have discussed it somewhere have some type of estate planning document in place. The folks who haven't, it's almost the same percentage that we saw in that other questions. The folks who haven't discussed it haven't had that opportunity to put any type of estate planning document in place. Okay, what are the reasons that people don't have an estate plan? Anybody want to take a guess? Go ahead.
I don't have anything.
Don't have anything. That's a good one.
Just don't think about it.
Don't think about it. That's a good one. Procrastination. Don't know how to do it. Anything else?
Fear of the idea of
Yeah, go ahead.
planning.
The-
Fear of the idea of planning for when you leave.
Okay, the fear of the idea of planning it. Over here. What's that? The cost. Those are all good ones. You guys can see that you actually, someone stole the test because you guys hit almost every single one of these up here. So the cost, too expensive. So, and then nothing to transfer or distribute. So you got that one. And let's talk about this cost one before I move on. So how many of you have gone to the ER before? Okay. How many of you have gone to your family practitioner before? Okay. And which one of those cost the most? ER. So getting to the point where something happens to you and you don't have an estate planning document, you don't have an estate plan in place, that's the equivalent of going to the ER. So you have the opportunity to do something that's preventative, to do something that puts you in a position where you don't have to go to the ER. And it's a lot more cost effective to plan on the front end than to, after the fact, have to have your family go out, hire attorneys to fight about what's going to happen with your assets. Plenty of time. Somebody got that one. So you have plenty of time. You procrastinate. You have plenty of time. You'll just do it later. It's all going to my spouse anyway. So people say it's all going to go to my spouse. So I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. But let's talk about that one on the plenty of time. How many of you in the room or online have had someone who you know, who you never would have thought that they were anywhere near death, and they die at a young age, or they die in a way that you didn't expect? How many of y'all have had that happen? Okay, almost everybody in the room has had someone who they didn't expect to die. So what does that tell us? It tells you that at the end of the day, you can make all the plans you want to make. We don't control it. We don't control when we go, but we can plan for it. So, and I've had folks who come in, sit with me, talk about starting a business. They get their business formation documents in place, and they are off and running, making money in the business, and all of a sudden I get a call about, and this is real. I get a call about they were in an accident. Husband and wife, both in the accident, both deceased. And I've had that conversation of, we're setting up the business, we should also go ahead and do the estate planning. We got the business documents, we didn't do the estate planning documents. So all of a sudden, you have both spouses are gone. You don't have any estate planning documents, don't have any instructions for what's supposed to happen, and you have minor children who are involved. So all of a sudden, you now have a situation where the court's going to have to get involved to say what's supposed to happen with assets, what's supposed to happen with those kids, and, depending on what's going on, it could be a extended process because there was no pre-planning on the front end. So, and the question I want to ask and pose to you is, how many of you, a lot of us think, if something happens to me, my spouse is going to take care of everything, so I trust my spouse, I don't have to worry about it. How many of you get in a car and drive across town with your spouse on occasion? How many of you get on a plane and go on vacation with your spouse on occasion? How many of you walk across the parking lot here at St. Mark to go into the church with your spouse, hand in hand with your spouse on occasion? And we know you can control what you're doing. You can't control what other people are doing. So even walking across the parking lot to walk into the church, you never know what could happen. Okay, planning to be part of the rapture. So I know some of y'all think that I'm going to be part of the rapture, so I don't have to worry about it. So I'm going to tell y'all a life-changing secret. Everybody lean in. Probably none of y'all are going to be part of the rapture. You have to plan as though you're not. So that's where we are. We need to do some planning. And hopefully, you might be that one person who makes it. But if you're not, your plan's in place. Okay. General fear and laziness. Somebody, who said that before? Fear. Yeah, fear. So you can be afraid. And a lot of families are afraid to have these conversations and why? What's the reason that people are afraid to have these conversations? What do you think? You got to talk about death. And when you start talking about death and you start talking about assets and you start talking about what's going to happen with assets, people start thinking you plotting on them. Let's just be real. People start getting nervous. Why are you asking me about the assets and what's supposed to happen? Why you want me to put a plan in place? You planning something? What's going on? And it is, if you love someone and you know that they have loved ones, you want them to plan and you want to be able to have these conversations, even though they can be uncomfortable. And I will be the first to acknowledge these can be very uncomfortable conversations when you have to have these conversations with a spouse, with a parent, and with folks who have never been exposed to the concept of we need to do some planning. Okay, and then there's just the folks who want to see the fight. If you leave some assets, and it can be a very small amount of assets, you're setting it up for a fight. And some people want that fight. And if you want that fight, don't do any planning. Because the thing that I can guarantee you is there are situations where you go and all of a sudden everybody's gathered up and there are different people who each had a conversation with you about you wanted them to have the piano and you wanted them to have the silverware. And that bank account, I just talked to her last week and she said that was mine. So when you don't leave a written plan in place, it leads it to interpretation and people can fill in the blanks however they want to fill them in. And guess what? People are motivated to fill in the blanks in a way that best benefits them. Okay. If you don't have an estate plan, what's your main reason for not having an estate plan? Y'all weigh in on that. Let me know. Okay. Yeah, if you have the poll up, go ahead and click in the poll. I want to see how we break out. Oh, come on. There's nobody who's going to weigh in and say, I take pleasure in the fight. There's none of y'all, not one of y'all who takes pleasure in the fight. Go ahead. What's that? Sometimes. I hear it. I hear it. I got you. So for most folks, it is they are procrastinating. They're saying, I think I can do it later. I think there's going to be a time in the future that I can do it. I'm definitely going to be around till tomorrow. And then I hope I'll be around for a couple of weeks after that. So I'm going to do it sometime in the future. Okay, we hope that by the end of the night, you're saying, I need to go ahead and get this done. All right. We already talked about this. Know someone who died unexpectedly. Most of us do. And we just came through the pandemic. So if you didn't before the pandemic, surely you know at least one person who died unexpectedly at this point. So why have an estate plan? You want to ensure that your loved ones are secure. You want to promote family harmony. And all of y'all told me in that survey, I don't like to fight. No one weighed in and said, I like to fight. We had a close call in the room with someone maybe liking the fight, but most of y'all said you want to see your family get along. You have minor children. So those of us who are saying, I don't have any assets, so why should I have to do an estate plan? If you have minor children and you want to ensure that someone knows what your wishes are with those minor children, what do you want to do? You want to have an estate plan in place. Because otherwise it's a court process and folks are guessing and filling in blanks. And I can tell you, if you have some minor children, you have an insurance policy, maybe you have $50,000, maybe you have a couple $100,000. What's going to happen if something happens to you and folks are having to figure out where those children go? And there's money following the kids? Yeah. I might want them if there's an insurance policy. So yes, folks are going to say, I had that conversation. I think I'm the best person to take care of the kids. And, this money is going to be very helpful to take care of the kids.
So if it's an insurance policy, does the courts look at that entity the same as they do savings account with money in the bank?
That is a very good question. So there are some. So the question is, does the courts look at an insurance policy in the same way that it looks at other cash or other assets and instruments? There are some assets that you have that will pass outside of your probate estate. What we're talking about is your probate estate. So there are some insurance policies. There's a place on your insurance policy where you can designate where your insurance, those proceeds of that policy are going to go. Who is your beneficiary of your insurance policy? That person is going to receive those. But guess what? What if your children are minors? They're not going to be able to take the proceeds of that insurance policy. It's going to come to them in a way where there's some type of someone in place to manage those assets on their behalf and to take care of them, and then the assets will follow them in some way. So, who do you trust? And a lot of folks, I see that the mistake that I see at times is the person will say, I made my sister the beneficiary of the insurance policy because she'll take the kids and she'll take care of the kids. You know what? If that insurance policy makes her the beneficiary of the insurance policy, that's her money. And you may want, hope, believe that she's going to do the right thing. She doesn't have to do the right thing. It's her money to do with whatever she wants to do with it, whether it's take care of the kids or not.
Legally, it is the right thing if she's spending it because it was left to her.
Yeah.
Unless it was designated.
Legally, it would be, unless it comes to her in trust in some way, it is her money to do with whatever she wants to do. And people make that mistake all the time of thinking, well, I can designate this person and they'll do. Well, I'll tell you what I tell my kids. Hope is not a plan. So if you're hoping that somebody's going to do the right thing, that's probably not a very good plan. And it's not just insurance policies. When you go down to your bank, you go down to Arvest, you've set up an account, you know the manager at the branch, and you know you're going to get good service at Arvest, so you've set up an Arvest account, and when you set it up, they ask you, well, if something happened to you, who do you want us to pay it to on death? And you put a POD beneficiary in that blank, and if you've done that, then that person receives those benefits at your death and only at your death. But what a lot of people will do is they will make somebody the joint owner of that account. So if you make me the joint owner of that account, I have the same rights that you have in that account. And if I want to go withdraw all the funds and go to Vegas, then so be it. Because it's all of a sudden I have ownership interest in that account too. So even if you're doing it for convenience, which a lot of people will do, for convenience, we'll put somebody on the account, that person has the right, in the same way that you do, to go withdraw funds. Questions?
So what would you propose then?
And the question in the room is, what would I propose? So there are parts of an estate plan that we're going to talk about where you can pass those funds to someone at your death, or you could do a POD. You can do a pay on death for those funds. And if what you're trying to do is convenience, then one of the things that we're going to talk about later is power of attorney. So there's a power of attorney that allows folks to act on your behalf, but guess what? They are acting in a fiduciary capacity to you, and they can't just go down and withdraw funds and buy cars and do whatever they want to do. There's some guardrails that are in place to keep them from just doing whatever they want to do. So these are the reasons why you have an estate plan versus a hope that somebody's going to do the right thing. Other questions?
I have a question.
Okay.
I have a will, but tell us more about trust. I hear some people put trust for their kids. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
And I will. You're getting a little bit ahead of me. We'll come back to it. We'll talk about trust. Okay. So why else an estate plan? You want to preserve the benefits of your hard work. So I've worked hard. I want to make sure that it's not all squandered when something happens to me. I want to make sure that the house is not left unattended and that it falls down and turns to dust because no one's taking care of it. You think your decisions are better than the state of Arkansas or our state lawmakers? And we'll talk more about that later. Okay.
An all-new Dr. Phil.
My dad stole my inheritance.
I did not steal my kid's inheritance. Grandma left her nothing.
You think he manipulated her into changing the will?
I do.
And she had to buy a family heirloom.
You negotiated to sell this to your daughter?
Hey, the facts are the facts.
Why would you do that?
Make $75.
You totally negated what she wanted.
I did not negate it.
You're taking away from your daughters. I wish they could.
Stop wishing. All new Dr. Phil.
Very small amounts of money that they're talking about, but they're fighting about it. Because it doesn't matter what size of the assets are. What matters is they want the assets, they're willing to fight about it, and because maybe there wasn't a plan in place, they are teed up to fight about the assets. Okay.
This is a picture of the Griffin family from the early 1960s. This is John Griffin here in the middle. In 1943, he formed his own company, Griffin Industries. In 2010, the company was sold for $840 million. Now, John had 12 children. Today, 7 of those children are involved in a bitter and costly legal fight over the family's estate.
None of the children in this Griffin family photo could have predicted how ugly things would be 50 years later, with sisters and brothers, barely speaking, walking out of a federal courthouse and preparing for trial.
How much money is at stake here?
Oh, there's a lot. Attorneys Kent Wicker and Janet Jacobowitz represent 4 of the Griffin sisters who claim their 3 brothers cut them out of the family inheritance.
It is a tragic story. And it's tragic that something like this would happen in this family.
Okay, so you have one slide that's about small amounts of money. You have another slide that's about large amounts of money. And at the end of the day, the goal with an estate plan is to minimize. You want to minimize as much as possible the prospect that folks are going to be fighting about your assets after you leave here. I'm going to ask you this question. As you were watching that clip, did anybody notice who the only people who were smiling were? The attorneys. And attorneys were, why do you think the attorneys were smiling? Yeah, the attorneys are about to get paid. And they have every reason to be happy about what's going on, because maybe the planning wasn't in place that then allows this to get teed up for a court battle where it's going to accumulate a lot of time on both sides from the attorneys, and guess where that money is going to come from? Yeah, it's going to come out of the assets of what's in that estate at the end of the day. So because of the planning or the level of planning, you are diminishing the assets of the estate with the fight. Okay. What if you don't have a will? So the state of Arkansas has a set of statutes that act as your will and determine who will receive property that you leave behind if you don't have a will. So who do you think is going to, based on, if you don't leave a will, you don't leave any instructions behind, who do you think is going to take priority if you leave here without a will or other document? Okay. All right. Y'all, we have a high fail rate on that one. So it's not the state, it's the children are going to take priority. So, I mean, most people, you guys didn't even get it wrong in the way that most people do. So most people think their spouse is going to be the one to benefit if something happens to them. And they never really think, if you have minor children, it's going to be the children. The children are going to be the ones who are going to be prioritized in the process. Any questions? If there are no kids involved, then it's going to be the spouse. Well, there is that statute sets out, it sort of gives a, if not then. So it's a bunch of different ways that this could pan out depending on whether you have children, whether you have a spouse, whether you have, and then blood relatives, etc. So
If you got siblings and you don't have a will, does it automatically go further? If you're single
and you have assets and you don't have a will, it's going to go, yes, it would be that issue would be probated, but it would be, the court would then make determinations about who would take parts of your estate. But even if you have a will, the will's going to be probated. So, and that's actually a good segue into this, which is that a lot of times folks will have a will, and either you've not told someone that you have a will, you've not done what Deacon Thomas tells you to do, which is put all your important documents in the same place and let somebody know, or they've done this, they have a will and they have someone who is named in the will, and that person's supposed to be the executor of their estate, and that person doesn't even know it. So no one's taken the steps that need to be taken, or they have a will and folks don't understand that the will has to be probated, and there's an orderly process that's set up for those assets to be distributed. And folks just come to the house, and next thing you know, the truck's in Texas, and the car's in Mississippi, and the house, somebody moved into the house, all the furniture going out of the house, nobody knows who took it, etc. So this is supposed to be an orderly process. It's not supposed to be there's a will and we got together, we looked at the will and we ran off with the stuff, because it also gives you an opportunity for things like, oh, what if that person has a child that they forgot about? Well, unless you mention that child, it's called a pretermitted heir, and that person actually does get to take against the will. So that's why you want to have someone who knows something about what they're doing involved in your process when you're doing your estate planning. Question here.
Yes, I have a question. So it says, who will take priority if you die without a will or other estate planning document? Okay, if my children are minor, why wouldn't it be my husband? Why wouldn't it be my spouse?
Well, and so if your children are minor, it's still not going to give it to your spouse and hope that he does the right thing. It's going to come to your spouse may ultimately control it, but it will come to your spouse in a way that it's in trust for the kids, so that the kids are taken care of, and we don't have to hope that your spouse doesn't meet somebody else who doesn't like the plan and don't like the kids, etc. We want the kids to be taken care of. And I don't want to get anybody in trouble, so I'm not talking about your spouse, because he would definitely do the right thing.
Okay, no. I'm not saying that. I mean, we're just trying to get an understanding. I mean, and even if they're not minor, why wouldn't it be my spouse if he's still living?
If they aren't minors,
yes,
then it's still going to be essentially, it's going to prioritize taking care of the spouse in a way. And even if, so there's also situations where the spouse is entitled to certain parts of your property. You could get married tomorrow and your spouse has real property, something happens to them, that entitles them to certain rights in real property that you have and other things, regardless of how long you've been married. So the spouse is taken care of, but at the end of the day, the major intention is to make sure minor kids are taken care of and don't become wards of the state. Question.
Does that have to be filed with the state on file, where you can go downtown or somewhere and look and see if that?
No, meaning your will or other estate planning documents. So you would put those with your important papers. Maybe you have it in a safe deposit box. You have it in a safe place. You have folks who know where it is so that they can access it if something happens to you. Typically, you don't file. When you file something, those things become public record. So typically, you aren't filing something where somebody can go search up what your will says and what kind of assets you have and where your assets are, and you got a safe in the basement, and I mean, there are reasons to make sure that those things stay secret until the right time.
that, you saying even if your name and the spouse's name is still on everything and you die, the spouse don't get it?
No, that's a very good question. So the question is, if you own certain things jointly with your spouse, am I saying that your spouse is not going to get that at your death? No, your spouse probably is going to get that at your death. You have joint property that you own with your spouse. That's a tenancy by the entirety in the state of Arkansas. And at your death, that passes to your spouse. It doesn't go through probate. It's no longer your property. It's their property. And it's the same as having someone on your bank account with you.
So would it be ideal to create a trust to avoid probate versus just having the will?
You can create a trust, and the question is, would it be ideal to create a trust to avoid probate? You can absolutely set up a trust where you have transferred assets to that trust, and those assets are not then probated. But typically, you would also have a will, even if it's a basic pour-over will that says, anything that I forgot about goes to the trust. And that part of it would still have to be probated. So that's the simple answer to that. And now there may be some more nuanced parts of it depending on your individual circumstances. Other question?
Yes, so this is just a scenario here.
Okay, and I'll come right back over there. We're over here.
I have a situation where I know of an individual who for years they said that they had no siblings. Okay, their mom has passed, but they said they had no siblings. And 50, 60 years later, you actually make contact. You knew of a sibling, but you had no contact with them. Okay, didn't ever think you would find them, but now you found them, and that sibling has passed on, but that sibling had children. Okay, and so that's the family. That's the family dynamics. So would that require the individual to update their will, because these people are not mentioned in their will? I know we talked about children, like if you leave out children, that's a problem. But what about nieces and nephews?
Well, no, and it doesn't create that same. And the question is, does it create the same issue that I talked about, leaving out a child out of your will? If you leave nieces and nephews out, does that create the same issue? And it doesn't. So, by law, we want to take care of and make sure that you are mentioning children, and we make the assumption that if you aren't providing for a child and you're providing for all the other kids, that you intended to provide for them in some way. So in order to get around that presumption, then we come back and we say, yeah, I know Junebug is out there, but I don't intend to give him anything. Yeah.
Let me run a couple of quick questions at you for the group. Single mother, got a kid, and her and her ex-boyfriend, ex-husband don't get along. Let's say ex-boyfriend don't get along. He's got drug issues, all kind of problems. She's going to Memphis, don't get back, and she dies. And she wants her parents to take care of the kid. Who gets the kid?
Well, I mean, and don't have any type of estate planning document in place. Right. I mean, the state already going to prioritize the biological parent. So what you want to have is estate planning in place that puts your intentions and your wishes in writing in a way that the court can then say, okay, this was the custodial parent. Here's the wishes of this parent. And maybe you've said what your reasoning is behind what you want to happen. And people, all the time make provisions for trying to make sure that their minor child gets to the right place. Because I don't know about you, but, well, I'm not going to say that. I will say this. I am going to say that. Maybe not every one of your family members would be somebody you would want to take care of your kids and to pour into your kids.
Okay, here's the second question. Husband and wife team goes to Memphis. They don't get back. Accident, something happens. They got a 401k. They got life insurance. They got properties. They got 2 sets of in-laws. Who's going to run everything?
Well, and if you got minor kids, so even if you try to make the kids the beneficiary of those, you can, on 401k, you can absolutely designate a beneficiary that's not, doesn't have to be done through a will. It's a non-probate process. So you can absolutely designate that person. However, if it's minor children, then there's still going to be a process where someone has to figure out who's going to take control of those kids and raise them and be responsible for them, and also who's going to be entrusted to make sure that the money supposed to be going to them is used for them. Both sets of parents are going to want them because it sounds like there are a lot of assets in place.
So another need for estate planning, what I'm saying.
Another
right?
need for estate planning, absolutely.
Last question, I'm going to let you get to it. Got a divorce, working a job, had your husband down as beneficiary on your retirement plan, got married again, but forgot to take the husband off the retirement plan. What happens?
Well, there are, I mean, I cannot, there's not a lot I can tell you with complete certainty, but what I can tell you with 100% complete certainty, if you want to fight, leave your ex-spouse on some, as a beneficiary of something, and then have a situation set up where your current spouse then sees that your ex-spouse is going to be taking insurance proceeds or anything else for that matter.
True story. Got a school teacher as a client, got a divorce, but got to take her ex-husband off her retirement. She retired, and guess what? He's getting part of it. There was nothing she could do about it. Nothing.
It happens.
True story.
Absolutely. That happens. And the other thing that happens is there are points in life when you want to, even if you have an estate plan, you want to review your estate plan. You're having children, you want to review your estate plan and make sure you don't need to make changes. You're getting a divorce, you want to review your estate plan to make sure there are not changes you need to make. You're retiring, you need to review your estate plan. And when you're reviewing the estate plan, you're also reviewing all of these other assets that you have. So typically the person you're reviewing your estate plan with, you're updating your estate plan with, will ask you about those things. And that's the point at which you go back and you make sure that you have the right person designated as a beneficiary, because ultimately, by law, if you've left that person as the beneficiary of your whatever it is, under most circumstances, as a general proposition, they're going to get that asset. That's going to be there. So if you are an ex-spouse and you might be a beneficiary on something, then you might want to be very quiet and let it play out. If you have some assets where you might need to go review, we can turn class out early if we need to. Because I can tell you that's definitely not what you want to do. Oh, there was. That's right. So, and I think your question was, how do you avoid probate? And that's going to be a very individualized answer. In most instances, what you want to do is to minimize the estate that you're passing, because the smaller the estate you're passing, the less process you have to go through. So there are, on a very small estate, you could do an affidavit of a small estate and be able to handle things that way. There are ways, by transferring assets out into a trust or transferring assets in other ways, like designating a beneficiary on your accounts your bank accounts, designated beneficiaries on your insurance policies, and things like that, assuming you don't have minor children, that you can shrink the size of your estate. Now, typically, what I will tell people is you still want to have something there. You still want to have something that says, if I've forgotten anything, here's what happens. So that if you do forget something, or, God forbid, you go out and you buy something tomorrow in your own name, you decide you want to buy a building off the interstate, and you bought it in your own name, and you didn't have time to put it in the trust, or you mistakenly put it in your own name, or whatever, you have something that says what's going to happen. So estate planning devices. You have wills, power of attorney, and I talked about power of attorney earlier. You have living will, healthcare power of attorney, trust, guardianship. And let's talk a little bit about each one of these. And I know I'm running short on time, but I want to get through these. So a power of attorney is a legal document in which you grant others the power to act on your behalf. So they're acting in a capacity that's supposed to be aligned with your intentions, your wishes. You can state when it becomes effective. For example, when you're incapacitated and you're unable to act on your own behalf, now they take the power of attorney and they communicate your wishes or effectuate your wishes with your bank, your creditors, and others. Healthcare power of attorney. It's just more focused than the power of attorney. It's a legal document in which you grant others the power to make healthcare decisions. It's very focused. It's about healthcare. So, on your behalf. And it becomes effective immediately. However, as a practical matter, it's employed only when you're incapacitated, unable to communicate your own wishes. So you're in a hospital, you are in a coma, who's going to be making the decisions for you? Healthcare power of attorney says, I hold the healthcare power of attorney, I make those decisions. And you see fights about that all the time. There are different people who have different understandings of what you would want, and sometimes those clash. And you see people fighting about, what are we going to do? You know, is the right person set up to make the decision about whether or not we have life-sustaining procedures, or whether we pull the plug, or what are we going to do? Trust. So a trust is a fund comprised of a variety of assets intended to provide benefits to individuals or organizations. So you can benefit, somebody said earlier, your children. So you can benefit you have minor children, you want to make sure they're taken care of. You can benefit them through a trust. A trust allows you to control things a little bit longer than a will. So the difference between a will and a trust is that if you provide for somebody in a will, they take that, it gets probated, and that asset goes to them immediately. They can do with it whatever they want to do with it. So you gave me $100,000 in your will. I get that $100,000. I can go out and blow it in Vegas. I can go buy a car. I can do whatever I want to do. And it doesn't matter what your hopes, wishes, and prayers are. I'm going to do what I want to do with it because it's my money. If you pass that money in a trust, you can say exactly what you want to happen down to the nickel. You know, I want for this to be $20,000 for education purposes. I want for the kids to receive X amount of money each month for the 10 years or something like that. You get to make more nuanced decisions about what's happening with those funds and the way that those funds should be utilized. Have a question in the back.
My mother has she has trust for me, my daughter, and my sister. So she gives us the paper where it says the trust, right, in an envelope. So my daughter says, okay, well, what am I supposed to get? It doesn't say.
So it doesn't.
It doesn't say. It just says blah, 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 trust, da, 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 blah, and my daughter's name, and then my mother's name. Then there's the envelope where there's my name, and da, 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 trust, blah, 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 but it doesn't say what it is. But I guess you can make those things do anything, say anything you want, and then my sister has one.
You can, but it should be a little more nuanced than that, I would think. And the question, well, it was more of a comment about the way in which a trust is set up. A trust is set up for different family members, and it doesn't sound like it gives a lot of detail about what's supposed to happen or what passes.
It's not a big deal to me, but it was just, I got tickled because my daughter was like, well, you know, she's 30. My daughter's 30. Well, what's up? What's supposed to? And my mom was like, don't you worry about it. You just, when I'm gone, then you gonna find out.
Well, and I mean, I will say, so typically, I'm in response to that comment, typically you're going to see a trust give some very specific instructions. And I mean, you could have received part of the trust and not other parts of it, because typically if you have the entirety of a trust, it's going to tell you what's supposed to happen. It's going to tell you what assets there are. It's going to tell you how the trust is funded and things like that. Okay. Okay. Question?
Can you just explain a little bit what you mean when you say probated?
Okay.
Probated?
Question is, what do I mean when I say probated? So a probate process is a process where you go over to the court and you file, and let's take, for example, the will. So you file the will with the court, and you ask the court to, the court oversees the process of making sure that what you said in your will actually happens. So your executor or your person who's representing your estate is entrusted to oversee the process, and then the court sits above that person to make sure that that person is doing what they're supposed to be doing, so that you don't have a process where everybody makes a race to the house to see who can get there first to get the most assets.
So, David, can you give an example of when there's not anything in place and the estate goes into probate?
So when there's not something in place, then you're essentially telling the court that this person died intestate with no will, and that's what intestate is going to be. They didn't have a will or estate plan in process, that you can look to for those instructions. So then that statute comes into play, and we start reading that statute, and that statute says, here's what's supposed to happen. Here's what you get. Here's what you get. And then those things pass as in accordance with that statute. Your preference, I hope, would be that you're actually the one saying, through a will that's been probated, here's what's supposed to happen. Question here.
So I know that power of attorneys, you can pull your own. Wills, you can write your own. A trust, though, does that have to be done with an attorney?
I mean, you could presumably write a trust. There are definitely things that you want to make sure that are observed, and that's whether it's with you can handwrite a will, and it'd be valid. It's called a holographic will, and even with a holographic will, there's certain things that you want to do for it to be valid. So you want to make sure that you understand what you're supposed to do and how you're supposed to execute it, and how many witnesses you're supposed to have, and things like that if you're going to do it yourself.
I guess I was really piggybacking off when she said that they received the trust for their mom and it didn't have all of that detail in it. I assumed that trust involved attorneys. I didn't know that you could.
I mean,
X if you went on your own.
presumably someone could decide they wanted to do, or to take a stab at doing a trust themselves. I've never really seen anybody do, I've never seen a trust where someone decided they were going to do it themselves. Okay, so I need to get through this. Okay. All right, we're on break. How long are we on break?
10 minutes. We need to pray.
10 minutes.
Who's praying? Dear Lord, we'd like to thank you for this food we're about to receive. Let it be a nourishment to the body.
you have questions, once again, I encourage you to, a lot of you have come up, asked me questions on the side. I encourage you to do that, or I encourage you to reach out to me. We've talked about a living will. Let's talk about some free resources. So you guys have asked me about certain things that can you do it yourself, etc. Yes, there are certain things that you can do yourself, but the Arkansas Bar Association Young Lawyers section, I think periodically will do a Wills for Heroes event, which first responders, they do basic estate planning documents for, and basic end-of-life legal documents for police, firefighters, emergency health care workers, and their spouses or partners. So that might be a resource that you can tap into if you are a first responder. More free resources. The Arkansas Legal Services Partnership provides some interactive forms. So those are the forms that are provided. And then there are legal assistance organizations that provide some assistance to folks if you're in a position where you say, well, I can't afford it currently. What's out there?
Can you give us that website on the one before?
Okay.
I can't see that.
Okay. So I will, we'll email that out to you. Okay. And once again, if you have questions, feel free to ask me. Hopefully you've learned something, and you're about to learn a lot more, because Candace has a lot of information that I think you're going to find very interactive and you're going to find helpful to you.
You're not done, David. You're not done.
Am I not done?
No, ask them if they got
Oh, questions. I didn't think I had time for questions. Okay. Questions. Does anybody have any questions? Okay. So everybody asked all the questions they wanted to ask. So, okay. And you absolutely can call me, and I'll answer whatever questions you have. Usually I say the folks in this room, I will do a free consultation for. And I'm able to continue to say that because not many of you take me up on it. So. And typically, if you have an estate plan document, you will need to bring that with you. If you have a will already, you would bring that with you. If you don't have that, then typically what I will do is I will give you a questionnaire. You'll answer some questions, and that'll be the way that we'll get the information we need in order to talk with you. Question in the back.
How do I find out which land I owe without it being controlled by a parent or a sibling? Because I know my mom, her name is on the main stuff, and she tries to leave a lot of stuff in my brother's name. So how do I find out what's mine?
So that's more of an individual question.
Her, is there somebody I can go, find it in a document somewhere?
Well, I mean, unless you have access to their estate planning documents, you're probably not going to be able to figure out what's yours and what's theirs, or what's yours versus what belongs to your siblings, etc. And
she, it's like a favoritism thing, and she's putting everything in his,
And I mean, to the extent that whoever it is owns different things, unfortunately, even if it's favoritism, they get to say, "Here's who I want it to go to," and
my great grandmother's land, then it was my great aunt's land, and she's supposed to have left it to me, my mom, and my brother. So.
Well, and if that's the case, So the question is, if someone left land to you and some others, how do you find out what your rights are? If that wasn't if it was in a will and the will wasn't probated, after 5 years, that will's no good. So it then goes back to, what does that state statute say? So that would be a way to figure it out. That's why it's more individual, and it would require some one-on-one to get some additional facts. Question over here.
Again, in the organization, so I can write it down. I missed the
Okay.
contact.
David Jones. And
Yeah.
so the
Okay.
information is going to go out.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, guys.
All right. Didn't David do awesome? All right. Make sure you call. He said people don't ever call. Okay. Okay. All right. Everybody good? Let me ask it better. How's the family? All right. I like it. Okay. We're going to go ahead and jump in. I have a very short period of time. We got a lot of information. Y'all ready? Got your track shoes on? All right, I think they do this to me on purpose because they know I'm going to get through the content. Y'all just going to go with me. Bear with me, okay? All right. One of the things I asked earlier, I said it was an assignment I asked for somebody to do, and y'all were right. It was the video, but it's another one. Did anybody audit their paycheck? Oh, what'd you find out?
That I don't know what any of those insurance terms mean.
Oh, okay. What about you? What'd you find out? I'm gonna repeat what she said. She said, I don't know what any of those insurance things mean on my paperwork. And that could mean that I'm overpaying or paying for something I don't even know what it is. That's what she said. Mm-hmm. And she's gonna look them up, right?
Yep, I'm talking to HR Wednesday.
Okay, good. I know we talked about that. All right, good. So she's talking to HR on Wednesday to get it fixed, to see what's going on. What's important is that if you don't know what it is and you're paying for it, guess what? You may have to wait until open enrollment before you can get out of it, but at least know so that when it comes, you can get out of it if you don't need it. Okay? Yes, sir.
Found out my 401k was taking out too much money.
Too much money? Okay. That's interesting. That's good. So they're taking out more than what you wanted them to.
Right.
There you go. Okay. That's really good. And we're going to talk about best allocations, what that looks like. That's perfect. So you put money back into your pocket so you could do something else with it. That's wonderful. All right. That was the thing. So I'm going to go ahead and give them 2 gift cards. Thank you for auditing your paychecks. Here you go. Enjoy. That's some lunch for this week. You don't have to spend money out. Let's go ahead and talk, okay? Let's go ahead and talk real quick about the insurance side of things. Did anybody get a chance to pull their insurance documents? Yes? Okay. What'd you find out about your insurance documents?
I saved $250 a year because I had a free prescription that I didn't know about until I recalled.
Wow, he had free prescription he didn't know about, so he saved $250. You say, what? A year or a month? A year. That's good. That's good. Anybody else? Anybody else? What'd you find out about your insurance when you pulled your policies?
I only have one.
You only have one?
It's my medical insurance. I need to make more money.
Okay. That's no problem. That's good to know, too. That's good. All right.
Look, I aged up, so my long-term increase, but it's okay.
Okay, you aged up, so you went up a little bit. Your long-term increase? Okay, I'm back. Whew. Y'all didn't even know I was struggling. Okay, great. Anybody else? Yes, ma'am. What'd you find out? The teacher's insurance went up. You were supposed to get a raise, but you got a raise, and they increased the insurance, so you didn't really get a raise. I understand. All right, well, let's jump into it real quick. Yes.
Before I came to Arkansas, I was checking over my insurance papers and everything, and I found out that my ex
Wow, that's a big one. I'm going to leave that part out. But she said, right. Yeah, you realize that. She said she had to immediately change her beneficiaries on her life insurance because her ex-husband was on there still. Boop, that's it. All right. That's good. Okay, so an investment is not always money, but it's always a commitment. Do y'all agree with that? It's not always money, but it's always a commitment. You did not pay to come to this class. Everybody agree with that? But you did commit yourself to show up every Monday when I got a headache, when I don't feel like it. Oh my God, I'm so tired. I'm just tired and I don't really want to be here today, but I'm here, right? I heard that 2 or 3 times today. So kudos to you, okay? Kudos to you. It's an investment in yourself because at the end of the day, what you put into your own mind, no one can take that away, right? The information you're learning and we're sharing, nobody can take that from you and you'll be able to pass it on for generations to come. One of the concepts I like to share is that I invest in myself at the level at which I expect results. So if I invest a little bit, what can I expect? Oh, y'all got it. But if I invest a whole lot, I can get a whole lot, right? We got it. So from this concept, when we think about the investment, we talk about investments. That's our phase to where we're going. But the concept is to make sure that we understand that when we invest in ourselves, that's the greatest investment that you can give. All right? So with that concept, I thought I hid this slide, but God said I had to share it with you, so I'm going to give it to you. All right, so it's this concept that Deacon Thomas and I, we talk about all the time. He said, man, when people are sick, Candace, they go to the doctor. Y'all agree with that? Boy, when their teeth hurt, they go to the who? The orthodontist. They going to the dentist, right? But when they need to know about some money or they need to know about wealth, why is it that we go to the neighbor in our cubicle who don't know nothing about no money? Right? So the thought process, and the reason that I even had it in the slides in general, was really just to raise your awareness. When the last time you thought about some money or talked about some money before Money Matters class, right, before you got some professionals you could talk to, didn't you go and talk to somebody that probably don't know? Mm-hmm. We know. We all kind of guilty, right? You're like, mm-hmm. I understand. So I'm going to move. Let's do it. Pop quiz. If you had a goose that laid golden eggs, if I was talking to my friend Taff, I'd say, Taff, if you had a cow that laid golden calves, right? Would you insure the goose or the eggs? Oh, look at y'all. You going to insure the cow? You doing the cow? Okay. We're doing the goose. Anybody say the eggs? Somebody say I'm doing the eggs too, right? I need both. So when you start talking about insurance and we start really talking about that, who is the goose in your life? We are. That was a little, that was real low, right? So somebody like, well, Candace, I don't really know. What is your greatest asset? I'm asking a real serious question. You've been to class before. Shh. Talk to the people that hadn't. I know this table, I don't remember seeing a lot of y'all. I know this table, I don't remember seeing a lot of y'all. It's you, Miss Christie. Who else? What's your greatest asset? Because somebody don't agree. Not totally. My time. That's good. What'd you say? My skills. That's good. My children. Okay. That's questionable. That's good. All right, I got to move. So your greatest asset, you're absolutely right. I'm giving you a hard time, but I want you to think about it because if you've been asked this question before, sometimes people give the answers. They say, it's my car. It's my house. Oh, that's my greatest asset, right? But in reality, you're right, Miss Christie, it's you. You are your greatest asset. Your ability to produce income, to go make money is your greatest asset. But what happens if you go down? Ooh. Oh, we in trouble, right? So let's talk about that. So there's this concept called your economic value. I want you to pull up. So I gave you a document. Everybody get the extra document that said how much life insurance do I need? Right? You got that? If you don't have it, wave your hand and we'll get it one to you. Everybody got it? One. We got one right here. Okay. On the back of that, flip it over. It ain't nothing back there, but I need you to write something for me. Next time, y'all gonna help me because next time I'm gonna have a document for this. Okay. I want you to discuss or write down what your economic value is, and I'm gonna give you a formula to do it. So what is an economic value? It's your money potential between your ability to work right now until you're done working. I almost said tired of working. That's like right now, right? Until you're done working. So let me give you the formula. The economic value says I make X amount of dollars per year, and if I never get a raise, don't include your raises, just keep everything the same. X amount of dollars in my yearly income times the number of years I have left to work. Everybody writing it?
So you want the yearly income?
Times the number of years left to work. That'll tell you what your economic value is. Now, I'll use the example on the screen. Let's say you make $40,000 a year. You have 30 years to work. Wonderful. That's $1.2 million is your economic value. I'm giving you time to do it because I want you to really know. If you're not sure, because you in business, right? Give your average. Give your average. You know how much money you really make. You can do too. Yeah. On my good days. And then, whoo.
Technically, I can retire in 5 years.
There you go.
But I know I can't.
But you want to keep working. So do both numbers. Yeah, do both numbers. Because you may not like what your numbers look like. If I do that, I can, but do I really want to? And some of us may say, I can retire, but I'm going to keep working. Yeah. So what's your number to where if you just said, I do it because I want to, what's that number? And then put that number in with the number of years left to work. Yes.
About 70 for her age group.
Retire. I'm not retiring at 70. Right. Okay. According to Social Security, yes, that's about right. 70, 72, it depends. But nobody has to control. Hold on. Be real clear. Nobody has to control what your number is. You control that. So if you say, okay, Candace, at 65 or at 60, I'm done, put that number down. Okay? Nobody has to control that. That's on you. Okay. Whatever you prefer. I just can't give you Social Security's numbers because I can't give you that. I mean, that is true, but don't let that be your determining factor. Okay? All right. The question is, you have a number on your paper. Is your economic value protected? Is your ability to produce income protected? Let me ask you a question. God forbid this happens to anybody, but the kids texting and driving on the phone. You're in the car. You going by your merry old way. And earlier, David made a good point. He said, you can't control what other people do, but you can control you, right? So you couldn't control that little kid who's texting and driving, don't even know how to drive. They herding is what my mama would call it. Y'all heard of that? They herd. That's country. Y'all don't know about that. Okay. So since they heard and trying to text and drive, we really in trouble. They hit you, and you can't go to work for the next 6 months to a year. What happens to your money? Where does your income come from? You can't work the next 6 to 12 months. And you don't have to tell me, right? I'm hoping I get Social Security. I don't know if you're old enough. Short-term disability. Sounds good. Long-term disability. Sounds good. Do you have it? Yes. Wonderful. Did you know that when you have it on your job, it's only 60% and that 60% is taxed? Do you have the ability to live off of less than 60% of your current income? Oh, we have to start to think about these things. 60%. Yes, ma'am. And less than that because that 60's tax. I talked to a gentleman today. He does well for a living, worked at Union Pacific, ended up working, getting hurt. His income dropped. I feel like it was like drastic. So he goes from hundreds of thousands of dollars a year to 60% plus his taxed. That's a lot. His lifestyle just drastically changed because of one incident. We have to think about these things. I know that I'm going quickly through the information, but I want you to think about it. So how can I protect it? You all just said it. Great income protection is what we call it. How do you protect your income? How do you protect your ability to produce it? you have short-term or long-term disability. That is accurate information. Many times you have it on your job, but it's sometimes good to have an extra thing outside of your job to make sure you're covering yourself. Let's talk about what these mean. Anybody know what it means? Disability, short-term, long-term? Great, let's talk about it. Okay. Y'all like, oh, yeah, but I can't really explain it. I got you. Short-term is less than 3 months, means you'll start, your check starts to come. Sometimes they have what's called an elimination period, which means when your money starts to come after the onset of a disability, okay? Let's say short-term, you've been off work a week, they say, okay, it'll kick in. There you go. And normally lasts between that short period of time. A lot of times we don't encourage the short-term disability because it's so expensive, super expensive, and we have what's called contingency funds or emergency funds for that. We'll talk deeper in just a second. Long-term disability is 3 months or more. Normally it kicks in if you're unable to work and lasts for a year, 2 years, 10 years. It could be up to age 65, 67. Those are things, that's the long-term disability depending on the kind of plan you have, okay? Now, emergency funds. Anybody know what that is? I like to call them inconvenience funds, all right? I don't want to talk about no emergencies. It's not an emergency if you can write the check. But your inconvenience fund normally comes in place when something happens and you need some money immediately. You should be able to control that. Job loss, car repairs, medical expenses, home fixes, major repairs, things like that. Those are what your emergency or contingency fund is for, and I just like to kind of quote it, that it's not an emergency if you can write the check. So what should your emergency fund look like?
At least $1,000.
Okay, 3 months of your expenses, she said $1,000. You're both right. Your mini emergency fund is $1,000 to $3,000. That's one of your immediate goals. Congratulations to Miss Lisa, who now has her emergency fund from the class. Yes. Let me tell you, she's showing up early and getting it done. Congratulations, Miss Lisa. Wonderful. She's like, yeah, Ken, I'm going to get this. I'm excited. Major emergency fund, 3 to 6 months of your expenses. An example, your expenses, not what you want to live off of. Your expenses, okay? Your monthly expenses are $2,000 a month. The recommendation is that you have a $1,000 mini emergency and a $6,000 major emergency. Simple, okay? We got it? All right, I'm moving quickly. What things can hurt you, but you may not necessarily die from it? Oh, you've been in class before. You're like, I don't even know. What's this? She ain't never asked me this before. A car wreck? Loss of your job? Oh, what things can hurt you, but you may not necessarily die from it. It didn't kill you. Okay. Oh, so y'all thinking, but we on different pages. Let's talk about it. Did you know a critical illness can come in your life? What is a critical illness? Heart attack, stroke, cancer, brain tumor. That's not even on the list. It's a major thing. My God. Can cause major financial losses, and in reality, it's hard for you, but it can wipe out all your finances, everything you worked hard for. It's gone, right? If we're not prepared, if we're not planning, if we're not on track. So what we call a critical illness is what it's called. So I want you all to do me a favor and rate these illnesses from the top to the bottom. What's the most common to the least common? Write it down on your paper. Pop quiz. Most common to least common. Most common to least common. Anybody ready? Yeah. All right, what's number one? Okay, somebody disagree. Somebody said cancer. Renal failure. Stroke's number one. Somebody said, anybody else? All right. Raise your hand for stroke. Okay, raise your hand for heart attack. Raise your hand for cancer. All right, good job. What's number 2? I'm just playing. Let me get it to you. All right, heart attack is number 1. The number 1 cause of critical illness is the heart attack. It's not pumping, or you have a blood clot in your arteries, whatever it is. Heart attack is number 1. Number 2 is stroke. Number 2 is stroke. Number 3 is cancer. Number 4, renal failure. Renal failure often comes from diabetes. Okay? Ooh. These things come into life and can literally cause turmoil. It stops a lot of things from happening. And in reality, if we don't have a real plan, it makes it to where you can't even heal properly because you're so worried about the finances. Now, let me ask you a question. If, God forbid, this happens to one of you or any of us, who's going to take care of you? That's a struggle, right? If we say our spouse, if we say our parents, whatever that looks like, your kids, so does that mean that they can't go to work either? Right. So now we really worry because my bill's short and they bill's short. So what we encourage is to make sure, we talked about the disability plan, but to also make sure you have a critical illness plan. Critical illness plan pays you a lump sum benefit. We've got a question at the back if we can get a mic. Pays a lump sum benefit to you to do whatever you need to do. Let's say you want to go fly across the country to get the best treatment. You can do that. Let's say you want to get the best doctor and your insurance doesn't pay for it. You can do that. Right? That lump sum benefit comes directly to you. Yes, ma'am. My team got tired.
I have an arterial venous malformation of the brain, which creates aneurysms.
Sure.
And I was working for United Healthcare, and then once we found that out, I transferred myself from Minneapolis, Minnesota back home to California. And I continued to work, but my illness exhausted my, so then I would have to do FMLA.
Right.
Nobody could probably, after a while. So I'm not working. I'm on Social Security disability.
Right.
So I had to exhaust.
Right.
401, blah, blah, blah. All my money in the bank. Bop, bop, bop. All the way down to now I'm on welfare with my daughter. But I couldn't let that get me down because I've got a teenager. That's why it's important for you to have Jesus with you at all times.
Absolutely.
Because I never and still don't really have the time to cry. And she's 31 years old, and I have a granddaughter. And Jesus is keeping me alive.
That's it. That's good. Give her a hand.
Now, I'm a broke one, but I'm just, and that's why I'm here to learn how to keep the little bit of monies that I get.
That's right.
But those things, but there's more. There's other things besides 1, 2, 3, and 4 that can take you,
That's right. Okay. Thank you for sharing. That's good. I couldn't have said it no better myself. I'm going to move. That was good. That was good. I got 7 minutes. The Love product. Anybody know what that is? Jesus is. All right, you're right. Okay. The Love product is what we'll call life insurance. You only buy life insurance if you love someone. It's likely you're not getting it for yourself, right? You buy it if you love someone. Let's talk about what it looks like. There's a document. How much do you need? How much do you need? Do you know how much you need? Your life insurance should be based on your life and what's happening with you as you accumulate assets, or as your assets have accumulated with you protecting your assets, one or the other, right? So from this perspective, your annual income, you would write that in that box right there, right? Write your annual income in. In this example, it's $50,000. You write what yours is. The number of years to replace that. Now, let's say, I got a spouse, you know what I'm saying, and he loved me to death. I know he ain't going to be able to replace me for real. But I'm at least put my salary on there a couple years to take care of him for a little while. I'll replace my income for my spouse. He going to be hurt for a long time. Put your number down, right? When you put your number down, total it up on the side. I replace my income for 2 years on this one, okay? It's just an example.
Would you put the 10 years that you put from back here?
The 10 years, no. Just your annual, so that 1 year. So that 1 year that you multiply by that 10. So you put that there. Do you have to pay off any bills? Do you want to pay off any bills that are left behind? Like your mortgage, right? You don't need a mortgage life insurance policy if you have your life insurance properly set up. I'm going to say that again, somebody missed it. You don't need a mortgage life insurance policy if you have your proper life insurance set up, because it should be built into your plan, all right? Credit cards, you want to pay any of them off? There's a number up there that says student loans. You should write a 0 there, because as long as you don't have a Parent Plus loan, if you pass away, your loans go with you. Great. Okay? Car loans. You want to pay your car off? Put that in, include it. Other debts, call it $20,000 on this number. The subtotal was $190,000. All right, so you put in any debt that you plan to pay off, that you anticipated paying off, just in case something happens prematurely. Let's say you have some children. You want to pay for their education? That number goes up every year, but we're going to say you got 2 kids, you put your number down, and you're going to give each kid $100,000 each. Great. That's $200,000 added up right there. You have your numbers? Do you have your numbers? Do you have your numbers? Yes? This sheet is not for me to fill out. It's for you, right? Fill it out. All right, here we go. Desired funeral costs. We might need to put that 10 up because everything just went up. But I put $10,000 for a basic funeral, okay? $10,000. My God. Maybe we'll increase this number. I'm going to put that in my notes. All right, total life insurance needed is showing $500,000. They said, how much existing life insurance do you have? Like group plans on your job or any personal. This person had a $100,000 policy on their job. All right, so you would reduce that amount from the $500,000. They said, how much do you have in savings? This person had 0. I put 0. So 500 minus 100 is 400,000. Y'all agree that's the calculated numbers? You should have your own numbers. I'm going very quickly. I need you to have your numbers. Tell me yes to make me feel better, even if you don't. Thank you. If you don't have your numbers, please finish your worksheet later. I'm so serious about this. This is really serious. I don't have a lot of time, but I need you to have it, okay? How's the family? How's the family? I know nobody's told you ever write down how much life insurance you need. I'm not trying to kill you off, I promise. That's a thing. People think that, you're trying to kill me off. No, we want you to prepare and plan. You need a master plan for your life. All right? What type of life insurance do you need? There's a few different kinds. We're going to talk about the main ones. There's whole life and there's term life. There's a whole lot of things in between, but let's just talk about the basics, okay? Whole life says it builds up in cash value, it stays the same over time, and it's often more expensive. Simple. Term life says there's no cash value. It is what it is. Has a flat rate over a period of time, 5, 10, 20, 30 years. And it's normally less expensive. I'll tell you in just a second. Actually, you'll be able to determine for yourself. Let's say an example. A 31-year-old young lady, she wanted a $400,000. We said she needed $400,000 in the example. $400,000 whole life policy costs her $341 a month. I hope her cash flow is in order. That's a lot, okay? If we look at this chart here, I want to show you something very important. I got 2 minutes to show it to you. Y'all paying attention? You got your track shoes on? I need you to get it. Very, very important. I want us to look at the guaranteed area, which is here on the left side of the screen. In 39 years, she'd be 70 years old. Her monthly price for her annual price is $4,094. Somebody take out a calculator for me. Help me out real fast, because even though I want to do it quickly, I can't shortcut you on the experience. Y'all ready? 39 times 4,094. 4094 times 39. What is it? She spent $159,000. Y'all agree with that? Not that you agree to do it. Do you agree that the numbers are accurate? Okay. Got it. Now, we're talking about the guaranteed amount. From the guaranteed perspective, what's the number there? Can anybody see it? Boy, y'all can see real good. 184, 196. My God. How much did she spend? Do me a favor. On your calculator. Oh, yeah. She said subtract, y'all. That's right. 184, 196 minus 159, 666. Anybody got some numbers for me? It only grew how much? $24,000. It's the guaranteed amount. So what that means when you're looking at a policy is that this is non-guaranteed. We'd love for this to happen, but just in case it doesn't, we're guaranteeing you this side. We're guaranteed that you give us $159 and we're going to give you a little extra $24,000. How many years? When people say, I want a whole life policy, or I want to be my own bank, or I want a universal life policy, and you just see these wonderful things on TikTok, woo, be on bank. Yeah, that's real cute. You have to, fund them properly. Those policies are great if they're planned properly. Somebody was in class the last time, no calling out names. They said, we got to pay extra in our life insurance policy because it ran out on us. Because they had a policy that was not built right. My God. We're educating you guys for real. This is real stuff. So, I'm on time. I can't even stay. Let me tell you. The same young lady wanted a $400,000 term life policy for 30 years, cost her $23.84. How much? $23.84. Let's say you were very smart. You're that young lady, and you take the difference between the whole life policy and the term life policy, and you say, well, you know what, Candace? I'm going to grow my money myself because I don't want to spend $341 for that much time, and they don't give me no money. That's all my money. Y'all agree with that? Yeah. She took $300 because if you subtract 341 minus 23, it's roughly $300, okay? $300 at a 10% rate of return for 39 years. Anybody know how much money she actually grew? Anybody know? Well, let me share. I'm going to share because I ain't got a lot of time. I can't have no suspense. $1.7 million versus the $184 that she was guaranteed. This is, I'm going to grow my money. This is, I'm going to come to Money Matters and learn how to get 10%. This is, I'm going to be smart with my processes and work with people that I know, like, and trust. Because people can sell you anything, but those can be dreams. We want to talk about reality, okay? All right, I'm on short time. 3 things we talked about. Y'all ready? 3 of them. Short-term and long-term disability is what we call our income protection. Critical illness is heart attacks, heart attack, stroke, cancer, and renal failure. Those are your main things that can wipe away your life savings. And then life insurance is what we consider the love product. You get it because you love somebody. And I got one more thing. Everybody say one more. How's the family? Family is good. Long-term care. If you're 50 to 60 years old, we encourage it. Highly encourage it. You want that policy to be paid up in 10 years so that the life insurance company doesn't modify it on you and make you start your payments over, increase your premiums, things like that. What is long-term care? We call it the dignity product. The dignity product allows for you to have a policy that says, I don't want to go into the nursing home. I want the nursing home to come to me. I don't want my kids to go and take care of me and have to bathe me and things like that. I'm going to pay skilled nurses to do that. I'm going to keep my dignity and I still be able to let my kids live their life and do what they do, but I'm still taken care of. Does this make sense? This is what we're looking for, and long-term care helps you with that to make sure you have the proper things you need. Because if you don't set up your planning properly, let me say it again, if you don't have that master plan set up, in order for you to get services, the state will make you spend down all your assets. They say, oh, you can't have nothing before we start paying. You own a house, sell it, and then give us the money from the proceeds of the sale. And then that'll pay for your services that we're going to give you. Y'all heard about this? Y'all know about this? Long-term care helps you eliminate that. We'll have the proper plans in place. Does this make sense? I don't have a lot of time for questions. I apologize. But it's been good. I hope. Diggy Thomas coming up. Ooh, I'm going to get David today. He made me do all this in 30 minutes. I think I'm sweating and everything, y'all. It's been good. I think my mic is back here. Oh, there you go. All right. We'll do questions. Do me a favor. Just send us an email at moneymatters@smark.live. You know, we send the email to you all the time. Send it there, and we'll connect back with you. If you need some assistance, if you need some quotes, we have you. Deacon Thomas, go for it.
Hey, give it up for Candace. That was awesome. So what you don't know, guys, can't hurt you, can it? So this education piece is very important. What she taught you guys tonight was putting together a financial chassis, a financial foundation. You can't do any investing, can't do anything until that income protection piece is put together, that financial foundation. Everybody understand that? Now, Candace, can you help take care of all that stuff?
Yes, absolutely.
If you need help, get with Candace or myself. We can do an insurance analysis for you and go over all that stuff for you. You got access. Just like you had access to David, you got access to Candace, you got access to me, you got access to the bankers, you got access to all of us here to help you understand what we're teaching. So use us, okay? All right, real quickly. Got 2 minutes to give you some homework. Homework real quickly. I need you to write this down. We're going to email it to you. What is the S&P 500? That's getting serious now, isn't it? What is the Dow Jones? Okay. What is a mutual fund? Some of the stuff's in your book. What is a bond fund? Is it on the sheet? What is an IRA? What is a Roth IRA? What is a NASDAQ? What is a stock? What is a T-bill? And what is a municipal bond? And we're going to email all that to you, but I want you to know you do have homework coming your way, okay? Okay, you guys have a good time tonight? All right, Pastor T, come on up and close us out. The discipleship pastor, Pastor Thomas, come up and close us out, sir. All right. All right.
Hey, let's give it up for the team here. Great job, great job. You know, it's important to understand S&P, Dow, mutual funds, all of that, because that's the language of Wall Street. And whether you know it or not, Wall Street is a big part of your financial worth. So you need to understand the language and strategies of Wall Street. That's how you get ahead. Staying on Main Street is fine, but you want to get to Wall Street. That's where the money is, right? All right. All right. So that's where you want to be. You want to be on Wall Street. Hey, thank you for coming tonight. I hope you take this information, apply it, keep growing, keep going. This is a journey. But good news is you're more than halfway there. This is night number 5. So great job to all of you. Let's just let bow for a word of prayer. Father, once again, we say thank you for how good you've been to us. We are so grateful for the grace and mercy that you have showed us day in and day out. Now, Father God, I ask that you allow your Holy Spirit to speak words of wisdom to everyone under the sound of my voice. You know what they need to hear, Father God. I pray that you will order their steps as only you can concerning their finances. Give them wisdom and guidance. Let them apply these tips and strategies to their everyday life. Now, Father God, I pray peace and protection upon everybody. Thank you for this team. Continue to anoint them, Father God, afresh to teach these strategies and tips. We're grateful for St. Mark and the leadership here to open up their doors for this wonderful ministry. Now, Father, as we leave this place, we know that we will never, ever leave your presence. Be with us, lead us, and guide us. In Jesus' name. And everybody said amen. Amen. Have a great one.